¿Dónde estás? In a world that seems to change daily, what will you do next? Welcome to the Next Steps Show with Peter Vazquez, a starting point for discussion y un poco de dirección. Absolutely, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I think that's a pretty good question to start our Thursday afternoon with. See, what will you do next? Gary Stout, ¿cómo estás?
Hello, Peter.
What will you do next, sir?
I'll ride home in the rain next.
This guy drove up. Here's how dedicated he is. You know, Bob, I called, I texted Gary just when he says, hey, you want to come up to the show? He's like, sure. Now, I didn't look out the window to see if it was raining or not.
Well, he's twice as dedicated on two wheels as he is on four.
Yeah, that he is. Although I am wondering, though, because I don't have a motorcycle, but I noticed your motorcycle has a little windshield, and I have noticed motorcycles with a little bigger windshield.
My helmet's got a little windshield, too, that flips down.
But what's the purpose of a windshield in a motorcycle?
Wait, call on me. I know.
Bugs. You don't have a
Bugs.
Bug collector.
But yours is like 3 feet tall with the with the YSL logos on them.
If you had the like an airflow pattern of it, goes right up over your head.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's what it does for bugs.
Mm-hmm.
It'll take them. I did not know that.
Or it collects them.
Or it collects them. Very cool. Very cool. You know, Bob, talking about bugs. I don't know why this thought popped in my head thinking about bugs or talking about bugs, but last Saturday, Bob, Gary and I did an event out in the city. On Samuel McCree Way, I think the name of the street was, with a local church, a black church, if that matters, and actually it does, and I'll tell you why someday. And what a great response we had that day, and we weren't hiding. We were right up front. GOA, WYSL signs were up. People were engaging. Like people were coming to us and asking us to say, "Hey, what is this about?" The issue of election integrity. I mean, that was a big issue for a lot of people there.
Yeah, we had a nice assortment of paperwork for them. People took things about the radio station.
Cool. Did you run
great.
across any listeners?
No, none. Did we run across listeners? No one actively said they were listening. However, many people said they're going to start listening.
Good.
Which was a good thing. Now, remember, this is a part of the city of Rochester, which is on the west side of the city, in and around that area. Not that particular street is referred to as Ghost Town these days because of the amount of murders that have taken place over the course of the last few decades, and so forth. So, you know, the fact that people were so receptive to having a conversation in the city about gun ownership.
That's right. And it wasn't just GOA and YSL. We had stuff for the Second Amendment show, GOA, YSL, and then Peter's show. And then Scope was there as well. And the Berna rep in this area was there. And people were actually shooting into the blow-up target he's got. So very well received. I was quite happy to see the response. And they had great food there, too.
Here's a blow-up target?
Yeah, in the back.
Did it come from the same company that made the AI robot for the school?
No, that's a different kind of blow-up target.
Oh, man. You know, I share that, ladies and gentlemen, because, see, that voice of liberty, it carries in places that you wouldn't even think of. And that's why it's so important. See, two things. One, that you share every show that is on these terrestrial airs coming from the WYSL, WLEA, Voice of Liberty Network, ladies and gentlemen. But, you know, the part that really got me, Gary, was when people were actively asking questions about election integrity. They literally, in some cases, because you did a lot of the talking in that, and I'm grateful for that because you're the expert here, see?
Well, I'm just passing the information on. The experts are the people that actually downloaded the files and studied them and figured out the queries and then located the algorithms. Those are the experts.
You know, let's talk about that query because, you know, guys and ladies and gentlemen listening, see, we asked the Board of Election to give us a response in regards to some of these numbers that we shared for them. And they told us, hey, hold on a second while we look at them, and they did. Peter Elder, along with Jackie Ortiz, both commissioners responded, and we wanted to thank them publicly for that. They responded with an answer that basically says, listen, we looked into all these, and it does appear, you know, that these were either, just not completely processed or something along those lines, but that they were confirmed not to have voted twice.
Well, the data came from a download that they were publishing the daily totals for the early voting.
There was some kind of an explanation. Did you read it? Did you see that? Was it sent? I didn't forward it to Gary. Did you, Peter?
No, he was CC'd on there.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to read a lot of stuff over the last couple of days.
Yeah, I
had
understand.
an out-of-town trip.
But there was a
going.
plausible explanation for it.
Yep.
Yeah, and the whole point of bringing that up to begin with was to find out what that explanation was.
Exactly.
Because all we did was download their data and then study it.
So I'm going to share a little bit of Peter's response here, if I can, just in brief, because it is pretty long. So I'm only going to share a few sentences. See, among some things, and I do want to discuss the list itself here in a second, because he brought up a valid point. He said, we have the ability to review each of these individual records. Thus, we have conducted a record-by-record examination of the individuals identified on the list provided to us. That review included checking our local election records and cross-referencing each voter's history with the New York State voter registration database. Based on that review, we found no evidence that any of the identified voters casted more than one ballot in the primary election. That reflects the individuals on this list are for the most part permanent mail ballot voters. That their histories reflect that they cast a single ballot by mail during early voting periods. And I'll stop there, because again, it goes on and so on and so forth. And offline, I'll be more than glad to share this with everybody. I think that's a phenomenal answer. I think they're doing their due diligence. Gary, would you agree that there does come a point where we say, okay, we presented you with something, you responded. I still may have questions. I'm going to watch carefully, but we'll accept that and move on and so forth.
Well, I'll accept that, but moving on is to keep looking at the data and downloading. And, we had Kim on last week from Project Civica, and we had Marley on too from Real America Vote, Marley Hornick. Kim Hermance. They were two of the founders of New York Citizens Audit. And the real questionable thing about all this is how it was covered up by everybody up until now without even making a response. Yeah. Quite honestly, this is the first time anybody's responded to any of the data. Yeah. And that includes our district attorneys, everybody.
And I'd like to know that happened first here on the Voice of Liberty Network and the Next Step Show, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. So we are working. We are definitely bringing the truth. I want to address one more issue on this. We talked about it a little bit, and that was the list. Again, I believe communications are both ways. And the BOE did question and use words like manipulated when it came to the list itself. And to clarify, you've said this a couple times, the list originally came from a database that's provided kind of closed doors. You need permission to access this list, apparently, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then this was downloaded, and the only manipulation, or at least the only change, was the study or the queries or the sorting that was done to find anomalies.
That was it.
So let me share what their question, and then we'll answer this and put it to bed. He said, based on the review, the individuals identified are all registered members of the same political party, Democrat in this case, all reside in a single jurisdiction, which was Webster. If the list is intended to represent individuals throughout Monroe County who allegedly cast duplicated votes, it raises legitimate questions as to why it reflects only one political party and one municipality.
Well, I don't have any definitive answer to that. What I can tell you is these machines are still susceptible to being hacked.
Yeah, they are.
Not even hacked. They're just accessed because they've got back doors in them that are about half open all the time.
Yep.
And as this information is coming out, that may explain how all of a sudden these numbers are here and then they're gone, because Kim also found, I think it's over 300,000 numbers that show up in the download from the files, the state files, in 2025 of December, and by January they're missing. They don't even exist anymore. So there's all those things that,
and those are verified.
Oh,
we're gonna show a video audio cut here, guys, here shortly that it is verified, and people are paying attention nationally.
Oh yeah, the DOJ's paying attention now.
I think Peter's question, though, at least in my mind, Gary and Bob, really highlights a question that's bigger than, hey, how, was just manipulated to show just Democrats, because I think what it shows is, well, maybe we should be looking to see if there's a trend here on all the studies and then see maybe, well, there is some kind of a party affiliation thing going on here. I don't know.
Pattern recognition.
By the way, we didn't get to it because Peter's trying to keep it, to a manageable length. But there was a comment in closing that Peter Elder made that you might want to consult with the state board of elections about the criteria used in assembling this list.
Yep.
In other words, just kind of like handing it off to the state, and we can all imagine what level of cooperation we'll get from that.
Yeah, probably none, because that they're not even talking.
See, that's the problem. The state and the county levels, or the voting records for the state and the county, don't match in many cases. Some do, but all I can say is they just have too many problems. It was best stated by the Journal of Information Warfare. They studied our data. These are cybersecurity experts, and they declared the New York State voter rolls a total loss of control data breach. Now, they may not even know that. It took us, I guess, close to a year of Andrew Paquette in studying these voter rolls along with a team of researchers to even uncover the algorithms that were there.
Yeah.
But the algorithms and the electronic voting machines all showed up at the same time, and nobody has ever provided a rational, innocent reason for the algorithms to be in there and only be able to find these multiple voter ID numbers assigned to the same person if you know how to, reverse engineer the algorithms and make use of them.
Willful blindness, folks. You decide.
No, one side says trust us, the other side says believe us, and the thing is, neither side, right? Well, that's not true. At least from my perspective, one side is refusing to sit down and say, okay, let me see the information. My wonder is, though, is the other side or the us side saying, okay, you showed us information. Where do we find a common ground that we can move forward from? I don't know.
Paper ballots hand counted.
I agree. American institutions stood at 27% in July 2026, right? Where confidence in 14 major American institutions are low. We'll be right back right here on the Voice of Liberty from Peter Vazquez, Gary Stout, Roberto Sabaje, Eli, and you guys, because lines are open. 585-346-3000.
WYSL, WLEA, Voice of Liberty.
Cause I was warm and strong and young. I promise I won't hurt no one.
Need football wear and your gear personalized?
Top-notch monogramming.
Need towels, blankets, bags, hats, hoodies, jackets personalized?
Top-notch monogramming.
Need bridesmaid, groomsman gifts personalized?
Top-notch monogramming.
Need corporate wear, staff wear custom logoed and personalized?
Top-notch monogramming.
Need Rochester, Buffalo, New York wear?
Top-notch monogramming.
Need Grateful Dead, Bob Marley swag?
Top-notch monogramming.
No minimums. Customer supplied items welcome. Quick turnaround.
Top-notch monogramming can help.
Owner operated. 7 Shone Place, Pittsburgh.
Peace and love since 1992.
The youth of our city are in a new crisis. Criminal justice reform has created the consequences of no consequences and generated a whole new generation of 12 to 17-year-old kids committing serious crimes. Never before have we had this level of youthful offenders, but 90% of these kids are just trying to do the right thing and need a safe sanctuary to retreat to. That's Rochester Youth for Christ. You can be a part of this solution by giving generously and regularly at yfcrochester.org/donate.
Peter Vazquez, the Next Step Show on the Voice of Liberty.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, do you know who this Brian Krastrucci of Beaumont Foundation is?
I don't know the guy, and I don't know the organization.
I don't.
But, I read this quote from him that says, science should not be a point of view. And I don't know anything about this guy either, but that quote kind of caught my attention because science is supposed to be absolute, right? I mean, things like religion and politics.
No. Science is not absolute.
No?
Science is a process.
Explain. Because, they say science proves that. It's like COVID, the elections, all that.
Science proves all kinds of things, and it might prove something today, and tomorrow it might disprove it. That's the whole point. It's a moving target. It's a quest. Gary, have I got that right? It's a search for truth. And truth, because of the nature of, science is an extremely broad, a category. Depending on the, state of the art, the state of research, the moment in time of mankind. Science can mean something completely different in a completely short period of time because that's called growth. That's how we learned that the world's not flat, for example, which we once believed, in the name of science, the Earth was flat.
Yeah.
Now, I know there's a lot of Democrats who think that's still true. But most of us think otherwise, thank God.
So science is not a point of view.
Well,
No, it's not the right analysis. I guess, because that gets into my science is different from your science.
Well, that seems to be a lot of what I'm hearing. And I know I'm kind of going around in circles a little bit about this. And we know, right? Science, there's hypotheses, and you got to prove the theories, so on and so forth. Things change. I get it. But, we're expected to believe in scientific facts, right? Things like when COVID was happening. But data points are also scientific, and they're also used for scientific polls.
I can have so much fun with this. I can go into my cross-examination mode, which my wife loves.
Oh, man.
You want? We can do the Socratic method here, and let's see if we can zero in on what a fact is.
And let's see what. Okay. All right. You know what, Bob? I'm going to put on my Democrat hat on. How about that? I'm going to support.
So,
right?
okay, you got to blind yourself first.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna gouge my eyes out. I'm gonna stick my finger in my ear and mess with my brain a little bit because that's probably what it's gonna take. See, and go deaf. So if I can't hear you, don't mind me.
Also, have to get a lot dumber. But go ahead.
Yeah. A lot dumber. There's this national lady. Her name is Dr. Naomi Wolf. You familiar?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's pretty cool, right?
Absolutely.
I thought so.
But frequent guest on the late Jim Quinn morning show.
Oh, wow, cool.
May he rest in peace.
Maybe I can get her on this show one day and be like, hey, we were on the same airwaves. But she says that approximately 7% of the reviewed records in regards to the Mayor Mamdani race, right, represented non-existent people, 6 contained false Social Security information, and 10 belonged to people living outside of New York, Bob. And you know what? I'll tell you, even based on my discussions with Gary and all these so-called New York election civilian investigators, sir, those numbers can't be right. Mamdani won, even though they're still counting. Where's the cross-examination? Do you agree?
If I were cross-examining right now, I would say, Your Honor, I rest my case because he's made my case much more eloquently than I could.
Cut one, please.
Oh, okay.
He thought
Give me a little notice on this. Give me a little notice. All right, here we go. Cut one, ladies and gentlemen.
But now there are multiple data points coming up. Did Mamdani really win the mayoral race in New York City?
Yeah. So there are now 3 different credible sources with 3 different data sets, all converging and reaching the conclusion that there is no way to say that Mamdani won. That there has to be an investigation. There has to be a new election. This election cannot be considered valid. So Marley Hornick of Real America Vote and New York Citizens Audit, she's an election integrity expert. She has found in her research and her organization's research of the voting rolls, 1 million of 2.2 million voters, she's found, having reviewed 1 million votes, that 7% were non-existent people. They were fake people. 6% had fake social security numbers, and 10% did not live in New York.
So see, this is a scientific, right? These numbers, all these percentages, you gotta apply some kind of data analysis.
Well,
to that.
it's just data.
I know it's data, but it's manipulable.
Right. I don't think
so again, with my
that
Democrat head on, how can this be right when we call the, because if you work for the government, Bob, right, who's and Gary, because you guys can't be right.
Well, not to judge people by group, because I hate that, but. If you're of a certain political persuasion, what you're going to do is you're going to align yourself with whatever preserves the power structure that keeps you in your role and gives you meaning. Irrespective of whether it's reality or whether it's accurate.
Gary, what do you think about that?
Well, it basically confirms what we've been saying for the last 4 or 5 years about this. And then after the Journal of Information Warfare confirmed, that's part of the scientific method is you have a theory, You explore it, you investigate it, you try to eliminate other alternative explanations. And then when you're convinced that you're right, you submit it to a panel of experts in that field. And if they spend 6 months investigating what you did and come back and say you're absolutely right, these voter rolls can't be used for a legitimate election because they've been accessed from the outside, they've lost control of their data, and it's being manipulated from somewhere. That's all we've ever been trying to find out. We know that you can't legally certify an election if you can't prove that these people voted. And when you can't even match the numbers or reconcile the number of votes cast with the number of voters that supposedly voted, then you got to go look someplace else to find out what happened. And they won't look someplace else.
They refuse. Let me share these numbers. The certified report, again, in regards to Mamdani's election, lists 2,218,647 total ballots in the 2025 mayoral election. Mamdani received 944,950 votes on the Democrat line, 169,234 on the working families line. There's a correlation there between those two parties.
Big time, yeah.
But Mamdani's combined total was 1,114,184 votes. Andrew Cuomo received 906,000, leaving a certified margin of 207,000 plus of votes. The report lists 2,194,000 recorded votes and 24,000 unrecorded.
Joe, Allegheny County.
In the mayoral contest. Can you tell me what all that means, by chance? Either of you, maybe?
The system needs to be thrown out and then a new one made that's got no algorithms in it.
Right. Yeah. But why do we have algorithms in counting votes? Why would we need that?
Oh,
what's the application for that?
We're gonna. You know what? When we play this next cut, that might help understand because these people are goofy. But I believe we have Joe from Allegheny County.
Yeah, let's go with it. Hey, Joe, what's up today?
Real quick, I checked 5 dictionaries for the definition of the word algorithm. Got 5 different answers. The most interesting was a peculiar way to do arithmetic. There should be no algorithms.
Yeah.
It's a simple tally. You count the votes, you drop it where the chips lay.
There you go. Thanks. Just count them up. Appreciate it, Joe from Allegheny County. You want this cut real quick before we go to break?
Yeah, how about we sing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's the only algorithm we need.
Yeah,
if we have time.
Yeah, just like Sesame Street.
That's what I was thinking.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See the bees go in the hive. Here we go.
Aligns with what we found. Brian O'Shea, my husband, an investigator, and I went to vote in Brooklyn. We're not registered in New York City at all. We are registered upstate. And they let me almost vote. And they actually handed Brian a form called a referral slip. And the back of it was blank. It was a form that was ready to be filled in. It had been in use since 2013. You could literally Xerox it as many times as you want. And that allowed, and he gave a fake name and a fake address, and they just waved him right through. So, multiply that at scale. And this in turn is correlating with another data set and another credible group of investigators.
She also said these statistics that we discovered implicate both New York City and New York State boards of election in potentially very serious misconduct. But guys, it seems to me that misconduct goes all the way down to, to the worker level. If they're just handing paper copy ballots to people without verifying, oh, wait, look at that, verifying ID, isn't that something? I think this particular cut right here completely validates why we need the SAVE Act in this country. See something, ladies and gentlemen, it's this simple. It's about transparency and it's about ensuring, that we the people have a tomorrow. Listen, lines are open, 585-346-3000. You got the doctor, the executive producer of the Second Amendment show, Peter Vazquez, right here, see? And of course, D'Angelo, the guy behind. We know it all. 585-346-3000. No te vayas.
Yes, and this show is completely AI free and no algorithms used in this program. WYSL, WLEA.
of Liberty. WYSL. Avalon, Rochester, WLEA, WLEA FM, Cornell, New York. Southern Tier Update.
Steuben County DA Brooks Baker says 29-year-old Jonathan Rivaldo was indicted by a Steuben County grand jury. The charges are second-degree murder, first-degree rape, and other things because of an alleged July 13th rape in Corning. It was shortly after July 13th that the 90-year-old victim died. Rivaldo is being held without bail in the county jail and will be represented by a public defender. In other news, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is working to pass a couple of laws to crack down on those who use voice cloning to scam people on the phone.
It gives law enforcement, the GUARD Act in particular, will give them more capacity to investigate financial fraud on the blockchain.
Which has to do with databases.
It gives law enforcement more tools. And then the National Strategy for Combating Scams Act, that would allow the FBI to take the lead and create a working group of all local and national law enforcement.
Brian O'Neill for the Voice of Liberty.
Southern Tier Weather, brought to you by Jones Memorial Hospital.
Morning clouds will clear for a bit of sunshine heading into this afternoon. Temps today into the 70s, mainly clear near 60 tonight. On Friday, some nice sunshine, well up into the 70s and 80s. On Saturday, clouds return with some rain at times Sunday. I'm Rich Cornelia for the Voice of Liberty.
FM Talk.
You'll be comfortable with the best. Turnbull Heating and Air.
Turnbull Heating and Air celebrates 60 years of service, expertise, and reliability in Western New York. Get $750 off any newly installed heating or cooling system. And Turnbull also wants to reach out to experienced HVAC residential and commercial technicians, as well as those just starting that career, to join our family of experts. The path to your future on the Turnbull team can include tuition reimbursement, paid training, and potential apprenticeships. Call Turnbull about your future as an HVAC tech at 585-501-9100. 585-501-9100. Keeping Western New Yorkers comfortable with the best for over 60 years now. Turnbull Heating and Air.
You'll be comfortable with the best. Turnbull Heating and Air.
Need football wear and your gear personalized?
Top-notch monogramming.
Need towels, blankets, bags, hats, hoodies, jackets personalized?
Top-notch monogramming.
Need bridesmaid, groomsmen gifts personalized?
Top-notch monogramming.
Need corporate wear, staff wear custom logoed and personalized?
Top-notch monogramming.
Need Rochester, Buffalo, New York wear?
Top-notch monogramming.
Need Grateful Dead, Bob Marley swag?
Top-notch monogramming.
No minimums. Customer supplied items welcome. Quick turnaround.
Top-notch monogramming can help.
Owner operated. 7 Shone Place, Pittsburgh.
Peace and love since 1992.
I didn't even know how to live a sober life. I was starting a new life over again, and it wasn't bad at all. Most people say, I found God. I look back and say, God was never lost. I was. I'm the one that walked away. I don't want to get back what I lost. I just want to be the best Tim that I could be.
Find out how you can help. Go to opendoormission.com.
Are you new to town and resorting to big box stores and online shopping to revamp your home? Get big city experience and unlimited options at Decorator's Choice in Hornell. We offer the largest selection of flooring in the area with installation. From custom furniture and window treatments to Benjamin Moore paints and products, our design team will create your dream space. Shop your entire sleep system with our split head and traditional mattresses, offering bedding and pillow lines for your best night's sleep. Decorator's Choice has everything you need to revamp your space. Visit our showroom at 37 Seneca Street in Hornell and like us on Facebook.
Tired of the big box stores who don't service what they sell? At DT Mower in Lima, browse and talk with the owners who sell and service their products. DT Mower has a full line of commercial and residential products, from pressure washers to generators, rototillers to chainsaws and string trimmers. Have your equipment tuned up for peak performance. Call DT Mower at 624-5955. DT Mower, routes 5 and 20 just east of the village of Lima. Small engine repair is their specialty.
Copytown Enterprise in Lima, locally owned, offers printing, scanning, banners, signs, labels, forms, tickets, and more. Copytown can print from mobile devices. Copytown Enterprise, East Main Street at the Crossroads in Lima. Open Tuesday through Friday, 10 to 5.
Flower City Collision in Henrietta trusted by numerous corporate fleets. Properly insured and registered in New York, Flower City Collision specializes in working with insurance companies on your behalf. Get it done right. Visit flowercitycollision.com.
Peter Vazquez and Next Step Show on the Voice of Liberty.
You know Fred Salbert, see, who's got the Old Guy in the Mic show right here in WYSL's podcast at WYSL1040.com. See, on Monday nights, right, Bob?
Yes.
At 7 o'clock, if I'm not
7
mistaken.
p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central.
And he shared on social media on the Next Step show. Thank you, brother. He said this: the great Zoltan needs to stay away from the 25th anniversary of 9/11 in New York City. And you know what?
Keith.
I think he needs to go, frankly. I think he needs to face the people of 9/11 directly to their face and hear what they have to say, to be honest with you.
I would not recommend that, but that's just me.
Maybe that's one way to get rid of him. Keith, thanks for calling the Next Step show.
The doctor says he doesn't like to judge by groups, but Peter...
I know, he calls me Puerto Rican all the time.
Well, I'm going to call you, I'm going to be polite about it, because privacy. You're Catholic. Haven't you ever learned when the church, your church, insisted that the earth was the center of the universe, and then guys like Galileo were persecuted for the longest time? The church would not admit that really it is the earth that revolves around the sun, and the earth is not the center of the universe. The good Dr. Savage was trying to say, as you were saying, Peter, that science is emphatic, whereas Doctor will have to speak for himself. He wasn't necessarily saying science is always in flux, but you have to have an open mind, which the church has shown that it has not had, and that's why it took Luther putting the 100 points there, pounding it on the church door. So you have to be careful. Unfortunately, the church, when we say that, I guess we usually mean Catholicism, has tried to have it a certain way, forcing science on us when it really wasn't science. Look at the hearings yesterday with bad guy so-called Dr. Fauci. They're exactly comparable. Look what Fauci and his cronies did in 2019, 20, and so on, 6-7 years ago. That to them was science, and we're finding out now that even for Fauci himself in his diary, he knew he was a fraud. So that's the danger of making science emphatic when there is not a true scientific basis to it.
100%. So, but let me clarify something, though, Keith. And I'm, you know what? I'm embarrassed, right, that I led you to believe something that is not true. I was I was raised Catholic by two Catholic parents, right, who were devoted to the Catholic Church. The interesting thing, though, about my parents is that they were so far ideologically separated from the theology that this religion was teaching. See, and I have this issue, and I want to make this clear, see? And this is important, I believe, Keith, especially for you who had a dad who was an Episcopal, a pastor, a religious pastor. There's a significant difference. Okay, listen carefully. There's a significant difference between having faith in Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior and the only path to God, to heaven, right, than being aligned with a religion. I can tell you, and I'm sure as poverty is rich to the Catholic churches today, as well as immigration, I am sure that in those times, the earth being flat was making as much money as poverty and racism and immigration is making for the Catholic Church today. Now, I'm not beating up on Catholics in general, because people that I know, especially in the pro-life movement, and my dad and my mom, are Catholic because, like politics and being Democrat, that's all they ever knew, Papa. Now with that, you know, I don't disagree on the other stuff. Keith?
I'm here. I thought you were going on. In closing, it doesn't matter that denomination, when they refer to the church, it usually is Catholicism. The problem is, in any denomination, when they call you a heretic and then burn you at the stake. That's what Dr. Sandwich was trying to say earlier when you Peter, were kind of coming across as emphatic that science as such always knows what it's talking about. Well, when the science comes from people, clergy or otherwise, it doesn't matter the group, when they really don't know what they're talking about, like when they said the Earth is the center of the universe, it carries over. Again, look what they put us through with COVID and Fauci, the bad guy, yesterday with his ego refusing to admit any wrong. Look what they put us through, the entire world, through COVID, and we're still suffering through it. People now are angry, rightfully, at the government, but a lot of people have just come about very slowly to seeing the truth. And I want to thank God here. I'll bring up God. Thank God for this Liberty Station. You give out a lot of facts the same way that you were asking if those members of the, the Black Church were listeners to WYSL here. Apparently not. You say you've got 2 million listeners. You got to get people listening, and they aren't getting the message. And it's when the wrong people say something is science, whether it's the Earth as the center or COVID. Again, that's where they burn you at the stake.
Yep. Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it. By the way, Keith gets the award today. Next Steps Award for noisiest phone line. Anyway, I'm sure he's going to get that straightened out. But anyway, a good call, Keith. 585-346-3000, Peter.
But, but he brings up a valid point. Seeing so many people, right, that claim God, country, and family, right, don't truly abide by God, country, and family. God is a thing in their life versus their life. And that's the difference between faith and religion. And I don't care if it's Catholicism or Judaism or Muslimism or whatever else. The fact of the matter is this, and the Bible is clear, ladies and gentlemen. Your relationship with Jesus Christ, your Lord and Savior, the only access to heaven, where you pray for things like discernment and emotional intelligence, then you can understand what things like COVID means. Like things where, somebody like Fauci who earned using your tax dollars over $1 million, right? In entertainment fees.
I wouldn't say he earned it. He got it.
Well, okay. Remember me, I like to be nice, Bob.
No,
right? Yeah, according to him,
case.
he worked hard for this. I'll tell you what. You know what? See, the thing is, very much like what the Honorable, Naomi Wolf said, right? Let me share this number. Trust in state health departments fell 80 to 66%, while trust in local health departments fell 82 to 70%. And the thing is, trust in our elections fell even worse, and this is why. Cut 3, please.
Mr. Fauci, do you know who David Schertler is?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. What does the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution say?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
No, I'm just asking you what it says.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
I give the Constitution to my aide. He'll bring it over to you so you can have it for future reference. I think it's something that every American should know what the Constitution says. Do you know who wrote the Fifth Amendment?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
So you're invoking a right that you don't know who wrote it or what it says. Is that correct?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Wow.
Mira. So really, look, guys, I mean, if you're not listening, and gals, of course, mira, respeto para mis mujeres, I love you, ladies. Same sickness is at work. Power demands faith. Well, withholding proof. Now, tell me something. Isn't that sound a lot like religion, guys? That's why I can't subscribe.
Okay, you can't subscribe to what?
Religion.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's
organized religion.
Organized religion, like organized crime, like organized politics, like, well, you know what? Organized anti-American sentiment, like the DSA. Because I'll tell you what, if you don't have faith in something greater than you, and you're limited by something secular, the DSA will engage.
You can have faith in a higher power without going to church every week.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lines are open. 585-346-3000. For those of you like Joe in Allegheny County in the southern tier and the northern tier in Canada, because you guys are struggling. 866-552-1009. We'll be right back right here on La Voz de Libertad.
WYSL, WLEA, Voice of Liberty.
Is your house collecting dust faster than you can clean it? Then it's time for... Hold on. Then it's time for Super Vacuum, Rochester's go-to spot for vacuum sales, service, and repairs. Need bags, belts, filters, or a brand new machine? Super Vacuum has you covered with expert service and hometown care. You'll find us at 724 North Winton Road, right next to Browncroft Buds Dispensary.
Youth for Christ Rochester, a safe sanctuary and a Christ culture for at-risk city kids. Our basketball programs provides a strict code of conduct, discipline, and mentoring to give our kids the boundaries they need and crave. Our God's Girls middle school program is so popular, we're now in 3 city schools and growing. Our Performing Arts Academy explores and identifies untapped gifts, all while delivering the gospel of Jesus Christ. Give a monthly or one-time gift at yfcrochester.org/donate.
Peter Vazquez and Next Step Show on the Voice of Liberty.
Yes, the phone lines are open. 585-346-3000. Toll free 866-552-1009. Again, here's the host for the most.
How about we go straight to after the great music that you got playing right over to Cup 4? See, because the thing is, I mean, this guy Fauci or Fucci, it's an inside joke. If you know, you know. But Fauci, the thing is this, ladies and gentlemen. He was granted a pardon by the buffoon in the White House, Gary. Do you remember that?
I remember hearing about it. I don't know that he signed any of those pardons.
We don't know if Biden was even aware of it. Could have been Ron Klain. Could have been...
Auto Pen.
Valerie Jarrett,
First name Auto, last name Pen. Actually, Trump showed a video on his Truth account, Bob, where, he's got all the presidents listed on that one walkway outside going into one of the wings. And the one for Biden is the Auto Pen.
That's funny.
That cup, please.
You may have had a 50-plus year legacy of public service, but it ends in total and complete disgrace. So let me ask you an opportunity to answer one question. Will you apologize, just apologize to the people who you harmed through your action? Will you say, do you have the dignity to just say you're sorry?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
So you won't apologize to the military members who Joe Biden summarily dismissed from the military for not taking the vaccine?
I think we know what the response was.
That's why I didn't include it. I figured everybody would say in their minds it would just automatically come. But tell me something, though, Gary. If Letitia James or the governor of this state, Hocus Pocus, right, and her magic tricks were on trial, how do you think they would answer to questions like that at the Senate hearings?
The exact same way. They got no choice.
They have no choice.
They either they've backed themselves into, the old story when you're painting a room. Don't get yourself into the corner where there's no way out. And that's what they've done. They've painted themselves into the corner. And now they either have to lie or take the Fifth Amendment.
And with a lot of help from lawyers, too, we point out. That's how they painted themselves in the corner.
Corporate-owned media, everybody stuck up for this guy and they inflated his ego to the point where he had no common sense left. And he basically presided over a genocide of people. They denied that there was any valid treatment for this. That's how they got the emergency authorization to release the COVID shots. And then they lied about the effectiveness of the COVID shots. They vilified those of us that said, I don't need that, I can treat it. And, here we are. They're still lying about it, trying to cover it up.
Cup 5, here we go.
Senator Ollie. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, nothing says honesty like taking the Fifth, huh, Doc? Let's try something. What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color's the carpet in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896, when he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyers sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs. They know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people.
Amen, brother. And here comes the contempt hearing. That'll be next week.
So CNN says, wait a minute. He has every right to plead the Fifth because there is potential state charges
there you go.
against this guy. But let me ask you guys a question, because, I know me. See, I believe this wholeheartedly, guys. You can accuse me of whatever you want. But if I know in my heart that I'm right and the facts that you're going to present are all full of doo-doo, or mierda, as we say in Spanish, see, why would I care about pleading the Fifth?
Well, because you were told to by your counsel, and because you're desperately at age 85 looking for some kind of an exit ramp.
Absolutely.
And the interesting thing about this is he knows, and we all know, he's not going to jail. Even if he's found in contempt, it's not going to happen. But what is going to happen is he's going to lose this tremendous inflated self-image, which is going to be, quite frankly, a more effective punishment than sticking him in a country club cell somewhere. And what Peter's alluding to here is that, even if he does have the immunity granted by an alleged pardon, that's only against federal charges. And so many of these states, particularly Florida in the lead right now, have potential state charges to bring against him.
Federal charges only up until that pardon was supposedly given. Because from then till now, if anything was found or came up, or if he lied.
Yes, yeah. Right, there's a timeline there that has to fit as well.
Cut 6 if we have time.
$900,000 cash award. And he got it because he used federal employees to get it. And this wasn't the only award, was it, Dr. Fauci? In fact, you applied for and received at least 8 other federal cash prizes on federal time using federal employees and federal resources. Here they are over my shoulder. Besides the Dan David Award, you've got the Partnership for Public Service. You've got the Adelson Prize. You've got the Smithsonian Award. You've got the National Academy of Medicine's Award. You've got the CDC Foundation. In fact, you turned your staff into a full-time application machine. You actually wrote to people and said, do you think maybe I qualify? And you got cash for all of this. And it wasn't just 1 or 2 employees, was it? In fact, you used 8 separate federal employees on federal time using federal resources to solicit cash awards. Isn't that true?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Except for the respectfully part.
Can you do 6, 7, 8, and 9 back to back, Bob?
I can do 7, 8 now. We just played 6.
7, 8, and 9, and then I'll get you guys to come.
Okay, you want to butt these up against each other?
Butt them up against each other.
Yeah, one butt against another. Okay, here we go.
The American people would like to understand your reasoning, your rationale for why you chose to fund the research in Wuhan. There have been, intelligence agencies, the CIA, the FBI, the DOE, have all come to the conclusion that more likely than not, the virus came from the lab in Wuhan. And so we'd like to know what was the rationale, what was the discussion, what went behind the decision to fund the research in Wuhan. How did you come to the conclusion that a totalitarian country would be capable of doing this in a WYSL-2 lab, a lab that lacked the security? What was the reasoning? And are you sorry, basically, for making the decision? Would you, given another chance, say, well, gosh, circumstances now, as I know it, maybe it wasn't a wise thing. Can you explain to the committee why you chose to fund this dangerous research in China?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
In the red folder on your table is a copy of Section 192 of Title II of the U.S. Code. Your counsel has been provided a copy as well. That section makes it a crime for a witness appearing under subpoena to refuse to answer any questions pertinent to the question under inquiry. Do you have that in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Let the record record that the witness has refused to answer whether there's a folder in front of him based on his Fifth Amendment right. Additionally, you've been provided a full and unconditional pardon dated January 19th, 2025 for any offenses against the United States which may have been committed or taken part from January 1st, 2014 through the date of the pardon for a 10-year period, arising from or in any manner related to your service as director of the National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Diseases, as a member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force or the White House COVID-19 Response Team, or as Chief Medical Advisor to the President. Have you refused this pardon, or do you have any reason to believe this full and unconditional pardon, this grant of immunity, would somehow require you to plead the Fifth Amendment?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Mierda, mierda, mierda. Institutional confidence has remained below 30% for 5 consecutive years, amigos y amigas. Only 50% of American adults now say they trust the health recommendations from the CDC. That is a national emergency crisis, friends. Check this out, down from 77% in just 2025. Trust in the state health department fell from 80 to 66%. Let me say this again, guys. Science, as quoted by Brian Castrucci, science should not be a point of view, but neither should mathematics come from a point of view. Neither should constitutional protections change according to the popularity of a person involving them. The answer is not blind trust. Gary, I'm down to the last couple minutes. I asked you to drive in what I didn't know, but is a rainstorm. I leave the last words to you. What can we, the people, right, in regards to the Second Amendment as it pertains to your work, even these jokers that are outright lying to all of us, what can they do aside from listening to the voice of liberty?
Well, pay attention to your common sense, one thing, and then get involved with some of the groups that are doing the actual investigations. Hold your elected employees' feet to the fire by phone calls, emails, and if we have to, we'll go park ourselves in front of their offices until they come out and talk. Because right now, none of their local representatives will even answer an email asking for a meeting on this. So they don't care to hear what we've got to say, but they're going to hear it. And, you know, if they keep stalling off this simple thing like the SAVE Act, they're going to find out what an emergency declaration is about our sovereignty.
I'll tell you what, if we hit another COVID era and it becomes almost permanent, the Second Amendment's going to become pretty darn relevant at that point.
Well, that's why we're fighting to restore it.
I don't think that there's going to be a repeat of the COVID. That's not going to happen.
I sure hope.
The Patriots are in control.
Ladies and gentlemen, I got to ask you and leave you with this question. See, why did American taxpayers fund work in a system where independent inspectors could not guarantee access to notebooks, databases, or a place like the Chinese Communist Party? Ladies and gentlemen, be a leader, be a leader, be a leader. Thank you, Gary.
Pleasure. Thanks for the invite, Pete.
Hey, don't let a second go by where you are not a voice for liberty, and may God bless these United States of America.
No soy niño empedernido, no me juzgues, te lo pido. Reconoce que el amor llegó esta vez. Soy cara de niño, con alma de hombre. Quiero amarte para siempre, pero tú no me respondes.
In the sun for off-road fun. Now's the time to shop Victor Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Route